had a great time and loved the area. It was really close to stuff. It just wasn't all that clean. There was like 2 roaches in the bathroom. It's over.
That's it. Okay, skip next one. Hey, doing fix and flips like 1 a year, maybe 2 a year. It can definitely work out and it can be great, but I think it is one of the most volatile.
So we love long-term rentals and they're good, but if you're just starting out and you don't know what you're doing, it could be a really tough way to learn.
A low barrier to entry. You don't have to take title of the property. You can make a lot of money very quickly, and 7 to 30 days you can get your first check.
So he was driving for FedEx. So he was in all these neighborhoods and he was seeing all these houses. And so I think if I recall correctly, he started bird dogging for people. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Evernest Real Estate Investor Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Spencer Sutton, and I have Adam Hobson with me again for this episode. Adam, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Spencer. Good to be here as always.
When are you going to start opening up these shows? You should do the opening.
I don't know,
I could
man.
be your co-host.
I'm just trying to be like you. I'm trying to take notes.
Right. I see you all over. I see you doing all kinds of stuff. I actually saw you on Facebook the other day. Maybe you had a house it was like when real estate goes bad or something like that.
Yeah.
You did something. So
yeah, one we talked about before where the guy was only in there 5 months and ripped out wiring and all that. Yeah.
Right. That's right. Good. That's good. Listen, if you're not following Adam, he's on TikTok, he's on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Just go find Adam. What's your handle on TikTok?
Adam A. Hobson. Yep.
Adam A. Hobson, real estate stuff. It's great. All right, let's get into this. This is going to be a high level episode, so we're not going to spend a ton of time. But what we wanted to do was just talk about if you're starting out like the worst way to start out in real estate, all the way down to probably the easiest and probably the best way for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So let's start with probably what you shouldn't do. We're going to start with these are going to be a list of 5. What's the hardest thing to start in that people shouldn't think about when they're just getting started in real estate? What's number 5?
All right. So
The hardest.
Did we say Airbnb? Is that what we said for number 5?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So Airbnb, I would agree that it's so, and I've done it. I've done short-term rentals. It's very time intensive, and you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot more money than if it's a regular rental, but there again, you still have to find the house, you still have to fix it up, and you also have to furnish the property, and you also have to manage it daily. You have to do it. People make a ton of money doing it with systems and processes, but when you're first getting started, I think it's the absolute worst. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, to your point, it's more of a hospitality type business. You live and die on reviews, and so you spend a lot of capital up front to hold on this property. Yes, you can make more money, but you're going to put a lot more effort into it. And even if you hire a property management company, like they're super specialized, so not every property management company does this. So you've got to find the right management company, and then you got to really hope that they're good at what they do, right? If they're bad, then you're going to be screwed because you're going to get 1-star reviews, 2-star reviews, and people look at that stuff. Like I know when I just booked an Airbnb for my son. We're going out west this late this fall or summer, and I was just looking, and I was making judgment calls just based on the star reviews.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, so if you have a couple of bad experiences, people have bad experiences, then you're going to be stuck. And you might even be turning that short-term rental into a long-term rental.
Yeah, if you get a bad cleaning crew, you get a bad anything, somebody misses a bug in the corner, like you're going to get roasted online. Like it's going to be bad, Hey,
we had a great time and loved the area. It was really close to stuff. It just wasn't all that clean. There was like 2 roaches in the bathroom. Yeah. It's over.
That's it. Okay, skip next one,
Skip, I do not, that's the last thing I want to deal with when I come into an Airbnb on vacation is I don't want to clean up crap.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, not to mention that, last thing I'm going to say about it is you have to watch out for. A lot of people in the last few years have bought these, furnished them, fixed them up, and they're going to make them extra nice. It's not like a rental grade. It's really nice, and then the city comes in and said, hey, we're actually banning Airbnbs in this neighborhood, or if it's got a HOA in this subdivision, no Airbnbs. So if you did this all for just Airbnb and you have no backup plan, what do you do when they ban it?
Yeah, that's right. You got to turn it into a long-term rental,
Yep.
or you've got to turn and sell it, I
Yep.
guess. So, or it becomes a vacation home.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Which is not what you want. Okay, so that would be the most difficult to get into and do well when you're just starting out. I think the second one, just below that, is going to be fix and flip. Now, the allure of fix and flip is there's a lot of money. Like we've had, I mean, I know you've done a good amount of fix and flip. We know a lot of people have done fix and flip, and you can make a big chunk of change, but also a lot can go wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about this as far as somebody just getting started out?
Yeah, well, like we talked about in a previous podcast, is if you are going to do it, you need to partner with somebody that knows what they're doing, because if it can be very dangerous if you, let's say that you know somebody's a hard money lender, like, hey, yeah, we're going to fund the deal. We think it's a good deal, but like you don't have great contracting experience. First time you've ever looked for contractors, first time you've ever had to use a lender, first time you've been on the hook for hard money lender payments the first, 2 or 3 months, maybe the market shifts. Like, yeah, I think a lot of people get into real estate doing fix and flips, like 1 a year, maybe 2 a year. It can definitely work out and it can be great, but I think it is one of the most volatile,
Yeah,
for sure.
It's volatile. There's a lot of things that can go also because it typically takes a long time to get your first fix and flip up, especially because you're learning, unless you have a super experienced partner who's got crews and knows what they're doing. So much can go wrong. And even what I've seen, Adam, is over a period of time that you're fixing this property up, the market can even change.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, interest rates can go up. There's all kinds of things that can happen. It's like, oh wow, I wish we'd have sold this 6 months ago.
Yeah,
but we were kicking rocks and weren't doing really well, and so you drag it out, and it's all of a sudden a bad mistake.
And the only thing I'll say about this, because I know 2 different people that this is the scenario. If let's say you're a contractor right now, and let's say that your wife is an agent. Y'all have the best of both worlds right now. You could, if you're a contractor, you can do the work and y'all do the work yourself. I know people right now that do that. You're not paying commissions. You're paying a little bit to your broker. But I would say if you've been on the fence and that's your situation, which is rare, go for it. But if not, I would probably stick to what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, agree. All right, so that would be the second hardest. The third hardest to get into if you're just starting out on our list of 5, I would say, is going to be long-term rentals. It's like buying long-term rentals. I love long-term rentals, and of course, I mean, this podcast is an Evernest podcast. We manage tens of thousands of properties around the country. So we love long-term rentals, and they're good. But if you're just starting out and you don't know what you're doing, it could be a really tough way to learn, in my opinion.
Well, A, y'all want to help people out, and B, y'all don't want to manage properties when you can see the trajectory of what's going to happen with this.
It's not good for anybody.
Yeah, so you would rather tell people up front and be honest with them and say, listen, this is not a good idea for you right now. These rentals are not going to do what you think they do.
That's why I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of investors from all over, really the world, but mostly from here in the U.S., who have called and they've said, hey, what about this property? I'm thinking about buying this property. I would say 90% of the time I'm steering them away and saying, that's not a good idea. You like, here's some different ideas. And I try to help them as much as I can, because last thing Evernest wants is for somebody to make a bad buy, and then it becomes a bad deal for the investor, for the property management company, and for the resident.
Yeah.
Everybody loses in that deal.
Yeah. Or you're like, hey, also I need you to sign something saying we told you this is a bad idea.
Right. That's right.
6 months down the road, you can't come after us.
Let's record this call when I told you this was not a good idea, so you can't come back and say it's our fault. Because that's ultimately what ends up happening. Yeah. Well, it's the property management company's fault. I think it's just easier to blame somebody else.
It is, yeah.
It's so easy to blame somebody else. So I think that would be the third hardest. Then let's go to the something that we both agree and how we both started our real estate careers would be, this is number 2. So we went number 5 as the hardest to get into, and we said Airbnb. Then next we went to fix and flip, and then the third hardest would be long-term rentals, and the second hardest, which starts to become a little bit easier.
Yeah, we're going to say the top 2 easiest ones right now.
Top 2 easiest ones right here, I'm trying to make this make sense, would be wholesaling.
For sure, yep.
And a lot of people probably think, well, that sounds like the easiest, but there's one easier. Go ahead, talk about wholesaling.
Yep, wholesale. Like you said, we both started out wholesaling, and low barrier to entry, You don't have to take title of the property. You can make a lot of money very quickly, and 7 to 30 days you can get your first check, and really you're just paying for marketing. But there's several different ways to market where you don't have to have a ton of money. We were talking about this earlier, where there is this pay-per-click that you can pay $2,000 to $30,000 a month and even more, but it doesn't always convert. But if you're starting out wholesaling and you're putting out cheap signs on the side of the road, or you're friends with agents and they're like, hey, I think you can get this deal, or if you're in a you can walk your neighborhood and knock on doors to vacant houses, you can get deals that way. So such a low barrier to entry with wholesaling. But I've seen it just like you have, and it happened to both of us, where it's like a gateway. Wholesaling is where one of the places you start, and it kind of leads into fix and flip, or long-term rentals, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. You get confidence, you get experience, and the next thing you know, you're like, I'm ready to take that next step. And so again, to your point, I think you had made in another podcast, this is a long-term, this is a long-term mindset. This is a long game. It's not like, even though wholesaling, you get some short wins, some quick wins, but it's setting you up to play this long-term. If
you're smart, and if you don't go out there and blow all the money. If you just keep reinvesting back into your business, that's where it's going to really multiply.
I think it was one of your friends that we had on the show. Was it Josh? That Josh? I think and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say that he had a relative that had a barn or something near the street, and he just put a sign up. Like, he just put this big sign, spray painted a sign, "We'll buy your house," or something. I can't remember if that's exactly what happened, but it was essentially, he didn't spend any money right off the bat, and he was selling cars at the time.
That's right. Yeah.
And so you can do cheap marketing. You can find a way to do free marketing. You, again, sweat by knocking doors, that type of thing. Super easy to get into.
Yep. Yeah. So wholesaling is easy to get into. It does take a little bit of money, but compared to the return on it, it's really not much at all.
All right. So now we're going to move to the number one thing, and that's going to be actually our friend. I want to say our friend Brian Miles started this way.
Oh, did he? Okay.
I think he started this way. I think he was driving for
FedEx.
Yep. He was driving for FedEx. So he was in all these neighborhoods, and he was seeing all these houses. And so I think if I recall correctly, he started bird dogging for people. And so this would be the easiest way to get into it, is essentially what Adam and I are calling bird dogging. What that is just finding properties, finding deals, and then taking them to somebody.
Yeah.
Is that how you describe it? I kind of see it as, I'm going to drive some neighborhoods. We actually hired some bird dogs when I was wholesaling.
Okay.
We'd hire them, and we just said, we're not going to pay you anything except for we'll pay you on the deal that you bring us. But here are the neighborhoods we want to buy in. Go find something if you want to.
Yeah.
And that's what we'd send them out doing.
Yeah. So bird dogging is it's easier than wholesaling because, excuse me, in wholesaling, you have to put up a little bit of money for the marketing. You have to pay for signs. You have to pay for whatever. Bird dogging is, hey, I'm going to drive around, and every vacant house I see, I'm going to write the address down, and I'm going to give it to Spencer. Spencer's going to go call. He's going to try to get under contract. If he gets under contract and sells at whatever price you come up with, I usually pay $1,000 to people, either for a bird dog fee or referral fee. I'm like, look, if you have a house in your neighborhood that's vacant and run down, give me the address. I'll call them. I'll get in touch with them. I'll do all the legwork. If I close on it, I'll pay you $1,000. I've paid $2,000, $2,500. Like, it doesn't matter if you're making money on the deal.
That's right.
But for the bird dog, when I first started out, I would talk to the mail lady. You talk to the trash people in the neighborhood, because they're going by every single person's house. Hey,
right.
Do you see any, when you're on your garbage pickup, any ones that you always skip? The cans are never out there.
Yeah, it's because it's vacant.
Yeah, it is, because nobody's ever there. Or you talk to the mail lady. Yeah, they're it's mail's coming out of their mailbox. Nobody's lived there in a year. Well, that's great. Hey, you give me those leads. If I close on it, you follow up with me and make sure I'm not going to mess you over. Like, if I close on it, I'll pay you $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, because it's worth it.
It's worth it 100%. And they're out doing, which is what Brian was doing. He was driving in these areas anyway.
Yeah.
And so it was like, yeah, shoot, why not?
Write the address down. That's it. Yeah.
100%.
You give somebody a list of 20 houses, chances are one of them is probably going to hit.
That's right. I'll need to verify that with Brian. I don't want to speak for him, but I think that's what he did, what he was doing. Now, I will say this also, how bird dogging helps you as a brand new person if you want to get started. Not only that, but if you're a smart bird dogger, you can follow that deal with the person you give it to.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're the mail person or the trash person or whoever, and you give, and I let's just say that's me, and I gave Adam this deal, and I said, hey, here's a deal. I'm going to give this to you, but I want you to do something for me. Will you kind of teach me how you did this deal? Will you show me why this was a good deal? Like why you thought you wanted to buy it, what you bought it for, all the things you considered. I would be super inquisitive. That's how you can learn for free.
Yeah.
Because you getting that deal, you're going to be more than happy to share that with them. You're going to be more than happy to say, yeah, let me show you how I did it.
Yeah.
I think anyway. So that's another way that bird dogging can give you a lot of really good experience, and you can get into it, make a little bit of money without really any money.
Yeah, if you're listening right now,
gas.
Yeah, you're listening right now, and you have no. But if you're already driving for somebody anyway,
yeah, that's right.
You know, if you're listening right now and you're like, hey, how can I? What's the very cheapest and easiest way to get into it? It'd be bird dogging. Because if somebody brings me a deal, I've had it to where they'll send me a house, I put it in follow up. It may be a year before they decide to sell it. I'll send this person $1,000 check, and I'll text them and say, hey, remember that deal a year ago? And they're like, oh, I forgot all about that. You send them $1,000 check, they're like revamped. They're like, okay, well, let's go find some more.
That's right.
You want to make sure, even if you may even pay them a little more, if you make $20,000 on a deal, I'd pay them, you pay them $2,000 because you want them to keep on bringing you leads.
Yeah, you want to motivate them. Because eventually, more than likely, they'll turn into an investor themselves.
Exactly. And the cheap, stupid wholesalers who do things wrong, or fix and flip or whoever, they're just going to say, well, I probably would have come across this deal. I'm not going to pay this guy this $1,000. Stupidest thing you can do. Make sure you pay them good, because they're going to keep bringing deals back to you.
100%. You want to motivate them all day long. So that's it. That's our list. Hardest, Airbnb. Second hardest, fix and flip. Third hardest, long-term rental. And then it starts getting easier when you talk about wholesaling, and then it's super easy to be a bird dogger, just a little bit of sweat equity.
Yep, that's right.
All right. That's it, everybody, for this episode of the Evernest Real Estate Investor Podcast. We'll be back next week with a new episode.